Hi, I'm John Ray, and welcome to the Thriving Podcast. I'm your host and intuitive coach, dedicated to amplifying your intuition, transforming your mind, and igniting your inner magic to create a life you're obsessed with. 2 years ago, I was burnt out as fuck in a toxic relationship and a successful tech career that I just wasn't happy in anymore. I left it all behind with no plan, and now I'm running my own business, immersed in purpose and passion, happily married to my soulmate, and living out my dreams every single day. And if you're badass enough to be listening to this podcast, then you're already on the fast track to doing the same, babe. On this podcast, we'll dive into all things life, business, heart, mind, body, and soul, empowering you to up-level your life and embody your happiest, healthiest, and hottest self. It's time to make idealistic your new realistic, because you're not just here to survive, you're here to thrive. Hello, my lovely thriving family. I am fired up today. I'm actually recording this episode on Sunday. This is multiple days earlier than I normally record my episodes. Normally I record them on Wednesday, the day before. And it is not because I organized my time better or anything like that. It is because I just had too much to say. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I need to just get on the mic because I have a lot to say and I can't. I kept like wanting to film little videos, little reels. And I was like, I can't get it all across in this. I just need to. I'm seeing so much is happening right now. So yeah, of course, this is Sunday, right? So this is like, we just had this whole TikTok died and then it came back to life 2 hours later and like everyone's being clowned and everything's a meme and everyone's like, what is happening? And everyone's giving their take on like, this is what it really means. And this is like this is like you were tricked and it's actually this. And this is what you need to be focusing on. This is what you need to be focusing on. And like, I'm still seeing posts of people like mourning TikTok, and then I'm seeing like intermixed with posts from people celebrating that it's back, and then people like celebrating and not celebrating that it's back, and it's just like a whole thing. And I think it's just there's so much going on here, and I'm gonna break it all down for you. And I really want to bring us all back to just bring us all back. Bring us all back to center. Bring us all back to our core. Bring us all back to truth. I think that's a big part of what is actually happening here, like on a grand scale. And I feel like everyone is probably also feeling very overwhelmed and very scattered right now and not knowing where to focus, not knowing what to believe, and not knowing even like how to feel or how they feel. Like there's just so much. And I think it's first of all, it's kind of crazy just like how much, like, can we just take a minute to acknowledge just how crazy it is that one social media app disappearing or the potential of losing access to one social media app has caused such panic and such an uproar? And yes, I understand that there are so many things deeper, and we're going to get into all the things that are deeper, but like, it's just kind of wild because think back to just like when social media started, or not even that long ago, to like who would have ever imagined that like it would be such a huge part of our lives. And I don't even know where I want to start because I feel a little conflicted on it. And I think I'm going to be able to sort through some of that conflict through talking through everything in this episode. But on the one hand, it's like, it's social media. I think we all kind of have this general understanding that social media is like pretty shitty for your mental health, for your overall health. Like it's overall, it has like, I don't even, it would be so hard to measure out to say if it's a net positive or negative impact. But there's a whole lot of negative that has come along with it. And I guess that's where I'll start because I feel like it is a little bit. And I want to start by saying that I was also upset to find out that it may potentially be banned. I was upset because all of the implications of that. I was upset to lose easy access to reaching more people. I was upset to losing easy access to these perspectives and stories from other people. I was upset for the impacts on my business, even though I don't use TikTok a ton in my business. I still did use it. I was upset for the impacts on other people's businesses, especially for creators and entrepreneurs who use TikTok primarily as a large part of supporting their business. Like, yes, all of the losses, community, connection, opportunity are real. And I think this is one of the dangers of social media is our algorithms and our feeds are so curated to whatever we think the narrative is, or the narrative that we would agree with or that we want to hear, you know what I mean? And we really don't realize what a lot of other people are actually thinking and saying, And so if you think about it, everyone is like, oh, TikTok, like I just finally found my community. I finally had people that understood me. That's because it's programmed that way. All right. It's just because like on TikTok, it's way easier to reach those people because it's literally programmed to help you reach them. You know what I mean? Like the algorithm is serving up your people to you. But what if we could look at this like this is just was showing you that those people do exist? Like those people exist and in the real world, quote unquote, right? Like in real life, in person with people, you just don't have an algorithm like that to serve them up to you. But that's life. That is like, we can't make everything in life easy. I feel like lately my podcast episodes are just like building off of each other. So it's like last week we talked a lot about working hard and putting in effort and self-discipline, and we're definitely like building off of that in this episode, because the thing is, and this is like one of the inherent evils of social media, right, is that everything is so easy. It's that constant dopamine hit. It's the overstimulation. It's so easy to get access, to get people, that we're not going to do the hard things. We're not going to do the things that require effort, because why would I do that when I could just go on social media? Why would I put in the effort to go out to a social event in person and try to filter myself, try to filter out the people that I actually could connect with that are my people? Why would I do that filtering myself when I could just stay home and scroll on TikTok and have the algorithm do it for me? And then I also like don't have to get up off my couch and like put an effort to get ready. And I also have a guard up at all times, so I don't have to really put myself out there and let myself be seen and risk expressing myself authentically and having people disagree. From the safety of my own home, on my couch, on TikTok, on social media, right? I can choose to post something or not post something, but I could still get this sense that people are understanding me because I'm seeing other people talk about it, right? Or as soon as I don't see something I don't like, or as soon as I, if I'm expressing I don't want to, I could just close out of it, right? Like we're running away from real life in a way. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is social media and TikTok have brought a lot of they've given us access to some really great things, but we have access to those things already in other ways. It's just given us easier access. And so a way that I'm really starting to look at this is I feel like this is serving as a wake-up call of like, okay, it's kind of like how, I'm all over the place. I told you I have so many thoughts. Like plant medicines, right? Those exist to give us access to a certain frequency we haven't accessed before, to show us, hey, this is what it's like. This is what it can be like at this level of consciousness when you're at this frequency, right? When you can open up to this amount of love for yourself and for others, for example, right? This is what that's like. Or going the other way, right? This is what it's like to feel like grounded, and then you get access. Oh, that's what that's like. Now I've initiated myself to this frequency. I know what it's like there. I know that I can access it, right? It's serving to show us this is what is available to you. Right? But then we can't be just like doing drugs all the time, right? Like, like when you get addicted to that kind of stuff, that's when it becomes a problem, right? So the thing with like a lot of like drugs and plant medicines is like, they're not inherently bad, but it's the way that we have our relationship with them. It's the way that we engage with them and exchange with them, the way we use them, the way we interact. And it's the same thing with TikTok. I mean, social media is essentially a drug, right? So it's the same exact thing. I actually hadn't made this connection until just now as I'm talking. I was like, I'm sure it's going to come together. I just need to start talking. And I don't want to waste my talking in a place where people won't hear it, because I think it's going to be valuable. I'm already getting hot. So that's the thing, right? Like it's not bad to smoke weed. It's not bad to take mushrooms, right? Those two things actually can be very serving if you have a healthy relationship with them, and they can give you access to states of being that you haven't had access to before. And they show you what's possible, what's available to you, so that you can then give you guidance or open you up to receiving guidance so that you can then implement that and integrate that into your life without those things to help shift your baseline. We talked about this concept of baseline last episode or the episode before, I don't remember, right? To help you shift your baseline. And so TikTok has now given us this great gift, right? Of showing people, hey, like there are a ton of people out here that are thinking the same way as you, that have all these weird experiences and like weird fears as you and look really dumb a lot of the time, right? There's all these people that you actually can relate to, and it's actually possible to have a safe space where you can express yourself authentically and you won't be rejected. Or there will always be people who understand you. And this is what it feels like to let yourself be seen and to let yourself be heard. That was the gift. Now we're aware of this. Amazing, right? But now we can't just keep clinging to TikTok and just become a stoner or just trip on mushrooms every single day, right? We can't become reliant on that thing. We have to learn how to access those things on our own and how to create those experiences for ourselves, okay? Because the thing is, that's the thing. Like, that's when a drug becomes bad, when you become addicted to it, when you don't have that self-discipline anymore in your relationship, right? Sandra and I were talking yesterday about, we're like, I think self-discipline is actually the most important skill as a human. And I was actually like, you're so fucking right. And I think it's even deeper than we realize, because self-discipline, like we talked about last episode, is consciousness. Like self-discipline is, and he was like, another way to say it, self-discipline is basically self-control. And I was like, you're so right. And it sounds limiting, like control sounds limiting, right? But self-control is actually the only way to be truly free. Think about that for a second. I want to let that really sink in. Self-control is the only way to be truly free. Because if you are not in control of yourself, if you are not controlling your actions, right, consciously, then who is? What is? If you're not controlling yourself, if you are not being conscious and intentional with your actions, that's why we don't feel free, right? That's what I talked about last episode with, if you're letting your subconscious, if you're letting your unconscious run the show, that's why you don't feel free. That's why you don't feel fulfilled, because you're letting your unconscious run the show. You're not consciously running the show. That's what we want. That is what leads to conscious fulfillment. That's what we're here for, right? The whole game is consciously choosing. That's the whole fucking game. You guys, that is the game, is consciously choosing. All right, I know I've talked about this before in different contexts, but really like let this sink in. Because if there was no conscious awareness and no desire for conscious fulfillment, like there would, like if our unconscious, if our, like the way that our brain ran things, which is always looking for the easiest path and the path of least resistance and da-da-da-da-da, right? And like the algorithm our brains are on, that's what we're always like quote unquote fighting, right? If that was it, if that was the only desire there was, there would be no game, there would be no life. You know what I mean? There would be no point. The point is to play the game with that part of you when you are consciously choosing, when you're choosing conscious over unconscious. That's how you win. That's how you win the game. That is when you feel fulfilled. That's actually, it's that simple. That's how you feel fulfilled. So to bring this back to what I'm talking about with social media and TikTok and the drugs, and is like, social media isn't inherently bad. I actually don't feel like most things, I don't know if I want to say nothing is inherently bad. No, I think because of my views on perspective, I think I will say that. I don't think, nothing is inherently bad or good. Yeah, it can't be. It literally can't be, because everything exists on a spectrum, okay? But like, social media is not inherently bad or good, but it's how we interact with it. And so the biggest issue with social media is that it's not inherently bad, but it is designed in a way that encourages, in a very challenging way when it comes to self-discipline. So it's like one of the biggest challenges. And I almost think that's, it's kind of like things come to a peak, like they come to a head, right? And that's when it pops. I feel like that's a little bit of what this is, right? Is like, this is like all coming to a peak, our relationship with social media, so that like this bubble can burst and we can change our relationship with it. It's like hitting rock bottom in a way. You hit a certain point where you literally can't take it anymore and you have to kick your butt into gear. You're like, oh my God, I just can't keep feeling like a piece of shit. Like, I'm going to do something. That's when the consciousness takes over, right? That's self-discipline. And so I think this is an invitation for us to remember, like, hey, social media is not bad, but the way we interact with it can be, right? And we really need to start being conscious about the way we interact with it for a couple of reasons. I feel like there was a point that I didn't wrap up, though, that I wanted to wrap up. Oh, yeah, because I was saying basically it has existed to show us, hey, like this is possible, right? But now we have to choose to let ourselves experience that in a really real way, right? And I'm not like discounting. I'm not saying that it's not your relationships you've built online aren't real or anything like that. Obviously, I met my husband online, but I am saying that it's a completely different world online versus in person. I mean, there is just inherent differences in the way that we're designed. I mean, the energy is so much more potent in person, and it's just not the same because there's always a wall between you and other people. Like, you just can't truly connect digitally in the digital realm the same way that you can in person. You just can't. And I think that's what we're all missing, and that's what we're all lacking. And the problem is that we just keep going back to the drug that, again, this is the thing, right? It's like the first hit will never be, or the next hit will never be as good as the first one. And we keep going back to the drug, trying to get this feeling, and we're never truly fulfilled because we're not getting the real thing. We're chasing an illusion of this feeling of feeling understood and feeling connected and feeling seen and heard. We can only truly feel that. And actually, I'm not even going to say we can only truly feel that in person. I'm going to say we can only truly feel that if we are truly, fully, authentically expressing ourselves in all spaces, because that is how you get that feeling. So that translates to in person. What I think is happening is we're clinging to social media so we don't have to face that in person. Because again, I talked about this last episode, so I won't go too deep into that, right? But that's what's happening. So going back to, I think I was saying, like, it's crazy because we only see certain parts in our algorithm, right? We don't see what actually everyone is thinking about this. And so today on Instagram, I was seeing a lot of people posting their feelings about the TikTok ban. And what was so interesting to me was the amount of people, the number of people who were just upset because like their habit was gone. Like, people who were like, oh, like, it's part of my nighttime routine, or I've opened TikTok so many times out of habit, or just like people who were like, you know, it's like a part of me is like wondering how much of the community is actually upset because of the larger implications, and how much of the community is upset because they were just addicted to the app and like addicted to the drug, you know? And I'm not saying both can't be true. I think definitely like there can be both. I'm not saying it has to be an either or, but I would love for you to ask yourself, like, how much of that is actually like, how much of my upsetness is coming from where, you know, like proportionally? Because I will say it's actually funny, because I'll tell you a little story. I have had like very on-off relationship with TikTok. I never really was like a TikTok addict. Like, I was never a full-on TikTok person for a very long time, but I would occasionally like intentionally go on, and I would, because I genuinely found the content very entertaining. I would often laugh out loud at many TikToks. This was like years ago, actually. So like even way earlier in like the TikTok age. I don't even remember when TikTok really started. But I remember, like, I would sometimes just be like, because I didn't, you know, I don't really watch TV much. I don't really do a lot of consumption, to be honest, like, in general. But sometimes, I recognized, I was like, you know what? Like, the content on here is, like, genuinely just really funny and good. And because I didn't really watch TV or anything, like, sometimes I would just be like, I'm going to intentionally go on TikTok for 2 hours, just as if I was, like, watching a couple episodes of a TV show, and just scroll for the entertainment, you know? And then I would get off after a couple hours, and that would be it, right? And I would even notice back then, I remember thinking like, wow, time really flies when I go on there. Like, I got to be careful with that, you know? And then I kind of would forget about it and like go back and forth. And then I didn't really start using it again that much until I started my business. And so I started posting on there, and I was like mainly building on Instagram. I still am, but I was also on TikTok because, you know, it's a different vibe. You could talk for longer, and I wanted to spread among multiple platforms. You got easier reach to new people, you know, like, obvious. I don't need to explain why I started posting on there too, right? But I started posting on there too. And so then I started seeing content on there a little bit more because, of course, every time you go on to post, it's just right in your face. And there were so many times where I got so frustrated because I would go on to post a video, intentionally, specifically to post a video, but then as soon as you open it, you see a video and you're like, oh, that looks interesting. So you're like, let me just watch the rest of this video. And then before you know it, you're scrolling for 30 minutes. You close out the app. You're like, what the heck am I doing? Oh, I opened that to post a video, right? So like, it's so crazy. Like, this is where I say, like, by the design is really, The design, it has flaws, right? Because it's like, even when you are going on with the intention of creating, you end up consuming, right? It's like a trap, right? Because I am so big on creation over consumption. And so it's like, this is where that self-discipline and that intention and that consciousness and thoughtfulness comes into play. And this is really everything, right? You have to be so in control of your own actions and be able to consciously choose in every moment. You have to not be so susceptible to that stuff, because that is your power. That is your power. And so to go on with my story, right, I started going to TikTok more, and then I would kind of have phases where I would like start like going on more and more. And sometimes I would get into like a little, like if I was in a rut or in a funk, like energetically, I would start doom scrolling more often. And then it would kind of usually last about a week or something. And I'd be like, oh my God, I'm totally falling into this hole. And then I would kind of cut myself off and then not go on for a while. And I kind of would have that kind of thing, right? And so I had recently kind of fallen into that, like around some point, like before the new year. I was in, I don't remember exactly what, I was in kind of an energetic funk, like a very like messy middle kind of place. I think around like late December. And it was around December, November. Yeah, like the end of last year. Like it wasn't like a big deal, but I was just like basically falling off my self-discipline and my habits with a lot of ways. What I realized upon retrospect was I had like burnt myself out in October, and I didn't realize that I had burnt myself out, not even with work stuff. I think that's why I didn't realize, because I was burnt out from other things. And so then basically October, November, I was kind of like just trying to get my shit back together, but like kind of again in that like transition phase of like recovering, adjusting my schedule and just taking the time to like get clarity on what areas I needed to shift and like what all that stuff, right? We all go through cycles like that. I was just talking to a client about this the other day too. And I was like, I need you to know, because she was saying she was like on a really good like swing, like she was doing really good with her habits and stuff. And then she basically had this big fear of like, but what if I fall off again? And I was like, you're going to, I was like, I don't even want to sit here and be like, let's, get rid of that fear. And like, why do you have to fall off? Like, I was like, you're going to fall off, because consistency is not perfection. Right. And so we all have up and down swings with our habits, with everything. I think I talked about this in my episode in the first podcast, right? I keep building off of these things, right? So interesting. So we talked about that, right? So anyway, just to give you a like picture of like where I was kind of at. And so I was in that place and I fell into one of these TikTok binges again, right? Where I was going on like a lot. And it was like, last for like a week and a half. And then I was like, oh my God, okay, this is terrible. I'm getting off. And I was like, I'm like not opening this app, period, point blank, starting tomorrow. I'm not opening this anymore. Because I noticed that every time I start going on TikTok more, for all the benefits you want to say it has, every time I start going on TikTok more, number one, it's because I'm not feeling good in my real life where I'm at. I'm feeling off energetically, internally. So the thing that prompts me to go on is avoidance, or seeking answers and seeking feelings from places that aren't actually going to give them to me, right? And then every time that I do go back on, and I'm on there like a lot more than usual, there is a direct downward spiral in my life. Like it affects everything negatively. It does. And it's like, yeah, while I'm on there, I'm like, oh, that was a cool new idea. That was really cool. Or, oh, wow, that was so entertaining. Like, that made me laugh. Like, there are good moments, but it's kind of like a toxic relationship. It really kind of is, where it's like, oh, but like we had that one really nice night together, and like, oh, but this and that, or oh, but that's still really good. It's like, yeah, there are always going to be good moments, but what is the overall impact it's having on your life? And I'm not getting into the business stuff yet. I'm just talking about your general relationship with the app and with social media, because I would notice my sleep started getting worse every time I go on there. I had less focus. I would get distracted more often. I would start feeling worse about myself. I would start feeling more fear about the stuff going on in the world, right? Which it's not that it's bad to be informed, but like that doesn't benefit anyone to just be in that frequency of fear and panic all the time, right? I would start to just feel more stress. So I noticed that and I was like, all right, cutting it off. Then I wasn't on it for a while. I was slaying the game, feeling so much better. Everything getting back into alignment, right? Everything going well. And then I hear about the ban and I'm like, oh, it's kind of sad about the ban. I am going to miss it a little bit. I want to hear people's thoughts of the ban. And so I went back on and I was like, it's okay, because I'm like, it's going away, or it might go away, right? And just for those like 3 days that I started going back on it, I noticed that direct, immediate negative impact on my life, on my mood, on my habits, on my focus, on my self-discipline. Immediate. And so, it's interesting too, because in Atomic Habits, he talks about, I think it's in Atomic Habits, people with great self-discipline, they don't actually have great self-discipline and like willpower. They just set up their environment in a way that really supports the conscious choices they want to make or something along those lines. And so it's kind of like, I think social media is a slippery slope, and you have to really, really be conscious and intentional about the boundaries that you set with it and the relationship you have with it and how you use it. And the core of that starts within, right? That foundation starts within. Because again, like with anything, if we're going because we have if we're trying to fill something, this is the first question I actually wrote in my notes of what I wanted to talk about in this episode is, what hole was TikTok filling for you? What hole was it filling? And even if you weren't a TikTok user and you're just like curious for my thoughts on this, you can ask yourself this with anything. Like any kind of, vice or drug or any social media, whatever it is, like what hole is this filling for me? Even any habit you're trying to break, right? Because it's like, was it filling the community hole? Everyone's saying, I'm losing my community, I'm losing my community. There are other ways we can have community. Community existed before social media, believe it or not, right? And I'm absolutely not saying this from any place of like being above anyone. Okay, just to make that clear, this is literally coming from someone who for the past 2 years has been complaining, like for lack of a better term. I mean, I've really been working on this, but the narrative that I was aware was running in my mind was, I just can't make local friends because nobody gets me. Just nobody understands me. I'm just like too different and I can't find my people. And just every time I try to make friends, I can't find my people. Right? And I knew that was BS and I called myself out on it, but I've been working through that for 2 years, you guys, me. And I'm like obviously very intentional about inner healing and personal growth and way more connected to myself than the average person. Okay? And I still was like terrified of actually just opening myself up to true connection in person with people and like risking people not liking me or expressing myself fully to someone and being like, maybe that's not my person, and doing that enough times to find the person that is my person. You know what I mean? It's like we've just lost that art of literal like human interaction, communication. And so it's like, if it was filling a community hole for you, how can we create and find community elsewhere? How can we create and find community in person? How can you embrace your local community, right? This is the thing too. We actually need, everyone's like, oh, because it's a space where we could talk without interference. There's still interference as hell. It's an algorithm, right? We actually need to learn how to interact and communicate openly and express fully and authentically with people without interference, which is in person. That's the only way to have these open conversations, to actually learn what everyone is thinking and feeling, so we can actually start to understand each other more. Because again, one of the biggest issues with this country right now, with the world and with social media, is how much it encourages the radicalizing of perspectives and the extremism and the divide and the polarizing of people, right? It pushes people apart because it drives you to the people that already agree with you, and it doesn't show you the other perspectives. And then you're only seeing other people talk about how the other people are wrong, right? That's what we need less of. What if TikTok was not actually like the be-all, end-all, all holy, mighty communication platform? What if we need to start communicating in person and being our own filter? Using our own intuitive algorithms. I feel like I'm jumping all over the place. There's so much still that I want to say that I haven't said yet. And like everything is interconnected. And so I'm like, I'm sorry if this has no flow, but I just like need to get these thoughts out. So, oh my God, I don't know if you heard that, but my phone just gave me like a snow warning. So that's fun. It was like one of those blaring alerts, you know? I want to come back to the intuitive algorithms, but I want to finish up on this point about what hole was it filling for you? And it's like, what was your relationship with it? It's like, was I addicted? Am I addicted? This is what's keeping you small. This is what's keeping you from changing your life and making the changes you want to make and from manifesting what you want to manifest. If your manifestations are not coming through, if you're not happy with your life, right? If things are bad in any way, if things aren't going well, going the way you want them to, then you either know what the problem is, but you're not exercising, right? The self-discipline and making conscious choices and changes to your actions to change the situation, or you're pretending you don't know what the problem is. But if you are pretending or think that you don't know what the problem is, right? Let me follow you around for a day. And then we'll see, right? When I say, okay, well, let me follow you around for a day, and then like, we'll see if you're really doing everything that you need to be doing, right? Or we'll see what's stopping you from doing the things you want to do. I bet I don't even need to follow you because just me asking you that, I bet you can already think of like all the things, at least 5 things off the top of your head that you're like, well, you're going to see me doing this, right? You're going to see me like getting up and scrolling my phone for 2 hours. You're going to see me getting in bed and scrolling my phone for 2 hours. You're going to see me not moving my body. You're going to see me eating shitty food. You're going to see me not going outside. You're going to see me complaining. What am I going to see you doing that is not in alignment with who you're trying to be and what you're trying to manifest? And sorry, not sorry, but oh my God, scrolling on TikTok for 2 hours every day feels so in alignment, said no one ever. Sorry, not sorry. Oh my God, social media has truly been so incredible for my mental health. Said no one ever. And again, I know there have been positive benefits. Again, it's given us access to the frequency. I know for a lot of people, it has changed their lives in positive ways. Again, I'm not saying it's all bad or all good, but I'm saying I think it's that kind of thing where if someone could be like a really shitty person and then they die and then everyone like doesn't really want to talk bad about them and then they're like talking about all the good things. And yeah, I'm sure they had good qualities, but also maybe they were really shitty to a lot of people, you know? But now that like they're dead, or if they're like gonna die, right? Then people like don't want to focus in on that. They like want to look for the positive, you know? Like we always look back on things more positively. So I think that's a little bit of what was been happening with TikTok is people are looking back on all the positive and not remembering like there's also a whole lot of negative. And we can have the positive, but can we? It's kind of like, you know, when people are like, this is why we can't have nice things, right? It's like, can we handle ourselves? Can we conduct ourselves in a conscious way on this app and with social media to where we can take advantage of the positive ways and the positive elements that it brings into our lives, right? Like expanded reach. That's amazing. That's amazing to be able to spread your message and reach so many people. I honestly feel like that's the biggest one. That's the biggest benefit because I think all the other benefits we basically have and can access in other ways. It's just the reach. That's really what that's given us, like the reach and ability and access to that easy connection to so many people. It's really just the scale, which again, the scale is amazing. It's so powerful to be able to access so many people, to have that opportunity to be able to access that many people that easily. And that can be used for good. And a lot of people have used it for good, which is amazing. But I guess what I'm getting at, again, I'm sorry if this is like a little all over the place, just because it has that amazing power, TikTok or social media in general, doesn't justify your addiction to it. And it doesn't justify having an unhealthy relationship with it. You know? So it's like, what did you feel like you're really losing with TikTok? And why did you feel like you needed TikTok for that? Because that's what I'm really getting at. Because again, it's okay to be sad about it. But what can you learn if you felt like you were really losing something that you can't replace? Again, I'm going to get to the more specific business entrepreneurial stuff because I know a lot of people will be like, my job. But like, what were you clinging to with it? Because I think, again, I just think for more people than we want to admit, it was these feelings of like false fulfillment and connection and avoidance of actually focusing, putting our focus, right? Like we talked about last week, our focus, our superpower consciously towards the things we consciously desire, you know? And it's like, they're probably just laughing at all of us right now. I made a video today where I was like, imagine the universe seeing us all talk about, oh, we're starting this movement, we're coming together, we're able to talk to each other, and we're all the truth is coming out, right? And we're like all talking about this stuff on TikTok, and you're just like, yes, 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 like raise the frequency, like start the movement, like make the change, yes, rock it, bring love to the world. But then like we're all just scrolling on TikTok every day, talking about it. And the universe is like, guys, are you? Are you making changes? Are you healing? Are you raising the collective consciousness? I've loved all these conversations, you know? I just said energy move when I said that, you know? These conversations are great. Like, where's the action? Like, are we doing stuff? Because sorry, not sorry. But, you know, we started a revolution and changed the whole fucking world by staying at home and scrolling on TikTok for hours a day. Said no one ever. It's a great starting point. Again, I'm like, I know I keep like kind of bashing it, and I'm not. Like, I'm just saying, like, we need to keep our priorities clear. You know, it's a great starting point. Again, it gave us access to that. It initiated this conversation. It initiated the movement, but the movement doesn't stay there. And the thing is, what is the movement really? I think that's the problem, is no one like really is clear on what the movement, like, we know what we want. We know the intention, like, we know what we don't like, but I think everyone is kind of like, well, how do we actually do that? What do we, you know, like, no one really knows how to move it off of TikTok. I think that's a big issue. And like I've been talking about over and over again, is the first step is just working on you, getting your energy and your frequency into alignment, raising your frequency. Because that's how we raise the collective consciousness. That's how we raise the collective frequency. Like, literally, that I've said, heal yourself, heal the world. Like, that, be the change you want to see. That's all you have to do, is focus on yourself. And I think people are scared. And the reason people just keep talking and not acting is because they think the action has to be this like big scary act. Like, when we think of like revolution, like, we think we have to go into war. You know, like, you don't actually have to do that. I don't know what like the step-by-step rebellion would be. I don't know what the physical step-by-step to change our societal structure and political structure and system that we're living in right now would be. But guess what? We don't need to. That's the whole fucking thing with manifestation, you guys. Have we forgot? Like, I think we're just like, we need to bring it back to basics. Basics. Manifestation 101. What was I just saying before? If you feel like you need something, right, then you need to check that. If you are like addicted and feeling like you need something to get something, like, why do I feel like I need that so bad, right? We can have that needy energy in manifestation. And then when it comes to the movement, right, everyone knows what they want and nobody knows how to get there, so nobody's doing anything. But what do we know about manifestation? What do we know about manifestation? What do we need to know and what do we need to not know? We need to know the desire, know what we want to manifest, and then we need to know what. Have I ever told you that you need to know the how? Have I ever told you that you need to know all the exact steps you're going to take to get there, to manifest that thing, to manifest that change? No. In fact, I've told you the complete opposite, haven't I? You don't need to know the how. The how is not your job. What is your job? What is your job? I hope to God somebody is saying this out loud right now in response to me. The next step. What do you need to know? All you need to know is what is the very next step, okay? So I think everyone is feeling overwhelmed because it feels like everything is so broken and everything is so far gone, and it feels like we need this huge upheaval or some kind of big change that none of us know what it is, none of us know what it looks like, and we're all probably terrified of. That we think we just fall back into victim, and so we just go complain on TikTok, and that makes us feel like we're doing something, you know? And so I think that's another reason why people are clinging to it. Again, sorry if this is harsh, but I think that's another reason, because now it's like people can't feel like they're doing something about it, because at least they could listen to other people talk about it, and they felt like they were engaging in the conversation, or they were posting about it, which again, I don't want to put that down, because again, that is the start, the first step of things, right? Is express it. Right? You have to start the conversation. It's absolutely important, but the conversation's been started, right? So again, like, we can't just keep talking in circles, right? What are we doing? And this is the thing. This is the kicker, okay? This is how I got on this topic. The one next step is just taking care of yourself. It's just taking care of yourself. It's finding that fulfillment within. It's using that self-discipline, using that focus, being intentional and conscious with your time and your energy and your money, not letting yourself be burnt out. Taking care of your mental health, drinking water, eating good food, going outside, getting fresh air, talking to people, connecting with people, spreading love, loving yourself, being kind to yourself, fucking meditating, dancing, moving your body, connecting back to yourself, expressing yourself more truly, setting boundaries. Those are the next steps. It's so fucking easy, you guys. It is simple. That is actually all you need to focus on right now. And we're going to complain on TikTok, oh no, what are we going to do? Our movement's getting crushed. That was keeping you in the frequency that was directly contradictory to your goals. Do you see that? It was a false sense of empowerment. If I can have these conversations on this app with people, and I feel like this is the only place where I can express myself freely. Like what? People are actually saying that. It's the only place where we can express ourselves freely with no interference. What? What? Go outside and talk to a stranger. Who's interfering? Like, why can't you say stuff? We got the proof, right? That we could speak up about things and it would be well received. You have to have the courage to speak up about things and express yourself, no matter what you want to express, whatever's true to you, right? Without worrying about how it's going to be received. If you're always waiting, what do we always say? If we're waiting, we're not creating. If we're waiting, we're not creating. So if you're always waiting to see if you're in a space where you're going to feel comfortable enough to express yourself authentically, then think about how much you're holding yourself back. And like when we say safe space, you know, like, is this a safe space to express myself? It's like we have to be really thinking critically. This is another art we've lost, is critical thinking, like true critical thinking. True critical thinking is really thinking critically about what do I mean when I say safe space? We have to actually be real. Sometimes, yeah, there may be a risk of real danger for you to speak up about certain things in certain spaces, but how often is that? How many times are you perceiving or not perceiving somewhere as a safe space? And really that means is like, it's safe because I know that I won't be judged or rejected. We can't just run away from judgment and rejection. We can't just wait for proof that we won't be judged or rejected to express ourselves authentically. Okay, that's the whole thing. We can't be waiting for that. We have to go first, right? You have to be a leader. You have to lead with your authenticity everywhere you go. And that's why it's so important to come back to yourself, build up that safety, learn how to source that safety from within so that you can do that. And you can face the potential of being rejected or judged. Think about how often you are doing that in spaces. How often are you filtering yourself? How often are you waiting to see, are they going to agree with this? I'm only going to share this opinion if they're going to agree. That's why you don't feel free. That's why you don't feel filled. That's holding you back in life and it's holding you back in your business. That's true, authentic self-expression. And what is the foundation of being able to do that? To show up and lead with your authenticity, to express yourself fully and authentically in all spaces, is that foundation of inner safety, is being able to source that safety from within. It's that connection to yourself, being in alignment. And so scrolling on TikTok, social media addiction, whatever level it's at for you, that is actually exactly what's keeping you from consciously aligning with your truth. From consciously taking actions to heal yourself and raise your own frequency, which is the action of this movement, which is what will change the world on a greater scale and help to raise a collective consciousness. You have to raise your consciousness because you are a part of the collective. Okay? Scrolling on TikTok is not a high vibe activity. This false sense of community that we're getting from TikTok is exactly what's keeping us addicted to TikTok. This false sense of empowerment is what's keeping us addicted and keeping us from doing the things that are actually gonna affect change. Oh my God, I feel like I'm going all over the place and I still don't even know if I'm really communicating what I want to say. But you know what the core of all this, okay, what are people, when I say about the movement, what are people upset about? This isn't even a left or right thing. It's not even a political thing. And this is where I was saying, I feel like we've lost the plot. We've just all lost the plot. Because, and I've been saying this for a while, I actually was going to record an episode back around the election called Let's Get Unpolitical. And I was going to kind of just share my thoughts on the current political landscape. And then it got outdated. By the time I was going to record it, I felt like, I've been talking about this and I want to move on and whatever. I just didn't feel like talking about it anymore. But one of the biggest things I wanted to say there was that, and I'm not going to get into a whole political thing right now, but what I will say is people on both sides, because everyone on both sides is human, and all humans inherently just want the same things. They want to feel free. They want to feel safe. They want to feel fulfilled / loved / important, purposeful, something along those lines. And they want to feel aligned. And they want to feel that things are fair, right? They want a sense of justice. People on the left and people on the right both want those things. That's what they want. They both think, everyone thinks they're fighting for freedom. Everyone thinks they're fighting for safety. Everyone thinks they're fighting for justice. They just have very different ideas of what that means or how we get those things. Or they're thinking about them in different contexts or from different perspectives. And this really ties right back into what I'm talking about in this episode, because one of my biggest political perspectives is that we need to start having one-on-one conversations with people and having more open-minded conversations and open-hearted conversations. And we need to be open to hearing other people's perspectives and finding common ground with people and building up from there. And guess what? Algorithms like TikTok are not going to help us do that. They're going to keep us divided. So again, as much as we feel like they're keeping us united, they're not. They're not. And I'm not even going to say it's us versus the government or the rich people versus the poor people. And I think this is another issue, is like money is not the bad thing. And I think this is like very harmful to actually a lot of our relationship with money and our money mindset, right? This concept of the evil billionaires, because there is a very not beneficial association being made between wealth and money and evil people. Right? And it is not benefiting you and your relationship with money at all to continue to associate wealth with evil, right? And there's so much talk of the evil billionaires, and you can't even have that amount of wealth without being a shitty person and taking away from other people, right? And this assumption of living in a world of lack and scarcity, a world that's built on lack and scarcity. But we need to kind of come back and remember, first of all, that is not the truth of our universe. We live in an abundant universe. Our truth is abundance. Lack and scarcity is not our truth, right? So this inherent idea that someone else having a ton of money is the reason why we don't have money, again, that's a very disempowered mindset, honestly. And it's very easy to fall into, but every single time that you energize that story, it's all the evil billionaires' fault. They're hoarding all the money. You're associating wealth and money with evil, with being a bad person. And guess what that is doing? That is reinforcing the beliefs in your subconscious that money is bad, that you do not want money, because why would you want more money if you are actively associating money with being a bad person, right? I should do a whole separate episode on this, honestly, because this is a whole other topic. But just really quick, because I think this is a big talking point. Like, this is a big thing at the core of all of this, is the thing about wealth, right? That's the problem everybody is pointing to. The wealth is too concentrated with a couple people, but really, that's just externalizing our power and externalizing the problem so that we don't have to look at our relationship with money. Because the problem is not money itself. Again, the universe is infinitely abundant. There's more than enough for everyone to have everything they need and everything they desire. The problem is not the money, it's the people with the money, okay? Money is an amplifier. It's a tool. Money itself is not inherently good or bad. It's neutral. Money is just a value exchange. Okay, I'm not going to go too deep into this because this is a whole other episode, but money is a value exchange, and it's not a limited resource. Value is not a limited resource, okay? So we really need to kind of pull out of the 3D a little bit and break this association we're making with wealth and money and evil people, because this is the thing, is like, they're just not good people. I don't even want to say they're not good people. I believe personally, a lot of people don't agree with me on this, but I believe all people are inherently good. They're just hurt people. No bad people, just hurt people. But it's just the people who are not living in alignment with good values, right? So that's actually what it is. It's people who are living in alignment with truth and love, with values of truth and love for all, and people who are not. And right now, it just so happens that the people who are not living in alignment with love are the ones that have the power, are the ones that have a lot of money, right? But here's the thing too, who's giving them the power? Why do they have the power? This is like kind of another limiting story of where like, well, because they have all the money, they have all the power. Why are we just automatically associating money with power? We actually have a shit ton of power. We have a shit ton of power with where we put our money, where we put our energy, and how we use our voice, with what actions we take. And so it's kind of like we don't even want to fall into that victim mentality on this grand scale. Imagine how much power you're actually giving the government and the billionaires and whoever else when you say that they are taking away your power and your free speech by taking away this app. They're taking away my power. Fuck that. No one can take your power from you. Let me say that again. No one can take your power from you. You choose. Take your power back. Any changes they're making on social media, right? Anything they're doing, it may feel frustrating or make you mad or feel unfair or wrong, but they're not taking away your power. They're not taking away your freedom because only you are in charge of your freedom. I know it's a hard pill to swallow, but the only time that you ever don't feel free is when you yourself are holding yourself back from something. I know it's a hard pill to swallow. Even if you are in an oppressed situation, whether or not you feel free in that moment is based solely on how much aligned action are you taking. It's more difficult the more oppressed you are. I'm not saying it's not, because it requires more courage to take the action of what feels right and to listen to your intuition, right? So what's happening is the circumstances are becoming more difficult to hold our own power and to own our power. But we're saying they're taking my power. And really it's becoming harder for me to continue to claim my own power. But that's why it's becoming harder, because we're all being called back to own our power right now. It's like the final boss of the video game before you get to the next level. That's what's happening. These are, again, basic concepts that we talk about in all areas of life. It's no different. Be conscious and intentional with your actions. And this is the other thing with TikTok, especially. So there's this stat that's been going around where people are like, 7 million small business owners are losing their jobs. Okay, I looked into that stat a little bit because I was like, what is this stat really saying? The stat came from, there are 7 million small business owners who use TikTok to promote their business, okay? So first of all, it's not that 7 million people are losing their jobs. It could be any company that has posted on TikTok as a form of marketing and advertising included in that stat. So it's not like 7 million people are jobless tomorrow. Well, it's not even, because it's back now, but you know what I'm saying. Second thing is, I don't know all the stats, but I do know that a lot of people who are like, I'm losing my livelihood and we're making money on TikTok, we're basically just doing affiliate marketing and making money off of TikTok Shop and just hugely supporting the overconsumption problem that we have in America. Put your money where your mouth is. Overconsumption is like one of the core issues that is going on here. And of course, the core issue, again, like I talked about, is what hole is it filling? The overconsumption is to fill a hole, right? We don't feel whole inside. We don't feel loved. We don't feel seen. We don't feel heard. We don't feel understood. We don't feel connected. We don't feel fulfilled. That's why you have to go inward. Connecting to yourself is your number one priority action item. Take those small steps to take care of yourself, basic self-care, connecting to yourself, finding that love for yourself and embodying that love for yourself so you can embody that love for others as well. The overconsumption, which also, by the way, okay, everyone's making it about money, because they have all the money and I'm broke. How intentional are you even being with your purchases? The first thing you should do, one of the first things, if you're really trying to get serious about your financial situation, is you should know where every single dollar you spend is going. And it should be an absolutely even energetic exchange. No impulse buys, no buying shitty quality clothing from unethical companies with terrible labor practices and standards that treat their employees horribly just because someone on TikTok said it was cool. When I'm on TikTok, like every 2 videos, I get a TikTok Shop ad from somebody saying, and this is a thing actually that I wanted to touch on that I have not come around to. When it comes back to this idea of community and we feel like, oh, we're such a community on TikTok, that exact false sense of community is what's keeping you susceptible to marketing of shitty products and encouraging your overconsumption, because I'll see in these apps, and this is the thing, is like how many people are even truly like heart-led that are participating in these apps? That was a whole other thing. Like the whole trend of people revealing things. I'm going to get to that. But what I want to say on this is I've noticed that the primary marketing tactic that TikTok Shop users use is, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. They use the word we. Like, we're all a community and this is what we do. And so if you want, it's like freaking high school. You guys, if you want to be a part of the community, you have to have these cool leggings. You have to do, the craziest part was like the days leading up to like the supposed impending doom. I was getting all these TikTok shop ads being like, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do this. What we are going to do is we're going to go to Redno and we're going to learn Mandarin. Because blah, 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 blah. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, we're sticking it to the man. We're doing this and that because I'm going to go to Rednote and learn Mandarin. And guess what? They're saying that so they can promote these shitty translating earbuds from China, not from a local small business in America that's putting your money back into your actual community that's impacting your daily life. Because it's like, again, what are we getting in return? Shitty clothing, overpriced mouth tape, translating earbuds to learn Mandarin for what? I'm not even saying it's inherently bad to buy something from another country and you should only buy it from America always, all the time. I don't know a ton about economics. I know about energetics, right? And so what I do know is that every purchase you make should be an even energetic exchange. And I know that a lot of people were impulse buying things off TikTok and falling for the marketing. It's just all marketing, right? And buying the $15 mouth tape and these sweaters and the tummy tuck leggings and whatever else it is. I know because I would see the ads and I would notice the thoughts of like, oh, do I need that? Should I get that? Like, our brains are just susceptible to it, all right? It's nothing bad about you, right? But that's why we have to be so discerning. This is just one element of it, is the overconsumption. How many of your purchases feel truly expansive to you? What is the intention behind where you're putting your dollars? You know what I mean? Like, where am I maybe falling for marketing? And I didn't really filter through my intuition before spending money or investing in something. You know, we've all done it. We've all been there because people have gotten really good at marketing. People understand human psychology and they get how the brain works, right? Which is a really good thing when you can use it for good, right? It's the same how like no tools are inherently good or bad. It's just how you're using them and what your intention is behind them. Again, it's really not even about, is it a foreign company or a local company, or is it a big company or a small company? It's about alignment, right? It's about values. Because if we're putting our energy and our resources towards cheapness and inauthenticity and things that are out of integrity and not in alignment with love, that's what we're going to get back. And that's what we're going to see manifested in the world. So even it's like, if you're like hating on Amazon, it's like, it's not that Amazon itself is inherently bad. The concept of it, it's actually like really great in a lot of ways, right? But it's the parts of how that company is run that are not ethical, not aligned with love. So again, it's really just, I want to keep really emphasize that shift and that distinction. It's not between big and small, rich and poor, foreign, local, anything really. It's about the bigger picture. It's about alignment and values. It's like with anything, it's a symptom of a misalignment. It's like big companies aren't even the issue. Again, like the billionaires aren't even the issue. They're a symptom. You guys, they're a symptom. They're a manifestation. Right? It's like we're looking at it backwards because a big company that is aligned with love, that is like spreading a great message and really cares about having great work-life balance for their employees and their employees' like well-being and fulfillment, and is actually putting out a good product, good quality product or service, I'm all for that. Right? Like I would that's the thing is like, I don't want you, if you are an entrepreneur listening to this, like I don't want you to have this negative association even with like growth and scale. It's not like, oh, like support small businesses and not big businesses. It just so happens that many of the big businesses happen to now be not aligned with love, right? And like high frequency values. And they're not high frequency, period, right? They're not embodying that. But it's like, I would love to grow my business as big as I can and make as much money as I can so I can continue to spread this high frequency and this message of love and spread this actual love to the world. Like I would love to be able to scale my business to the point where I can hire employees and give them an amazing, fulfilling job that they love. And that's why I teach sales and marketing to heart-led people, because I want to help people with a heart-led message who are trying to spread more love and light into the world to use those tools for good, right? to spread more genuine value and high quality creation. Again, it's not even about the thing. I'm not saying material things are bad. I'm not saying buying clothes are bad or anything. I'm saying just be more intentional and thoughtful when you spend your money. What is it adding to my life? What am I supporting with this purchase? And it's not just money, right? Again, it's all your resources, your time, your energy, your money, your voice. This is all so nuanced, but we really just need to remember, what do I have power over? Because you have more power than you realize. And this is why, to bring it back to like the TikTok thing, people were being like it really was a thing. And that's why I was getting such a vibe of like, yes, there are good intentioned people out here like talking about like their concerns about losing the app. And also there was a lot of people that was giving like, I'm mad at my parents because they took away my toy. And so I'm going to just run over to this other app in protest and like not actually do anything important, right? It's like there was people who were like, this is like a threat to our freedom. But then they were like, and so in response, we're just going to buy these Chinese earphones and go get this other app. Sorry, but how is that changing the big picture? And it's like people were marketing these products, telling you, contributing to the overconsumption culture, saying you need to buy these so that you can stick it to the man, and making you think that that's benefiting you in any way, that that's going to actually change something. We've lost the plot. We've lost the plot. And I know there's the whole element of the fear of, censorship, and they want to make a state media and the fascist propaganda. And I just think at this point, again, we need to just zoom out. And it's really just not serving to spiral into talking about the problems over and over. And again, just feeding the fear frequency. And so I'm really just choosing to focus my energy on, again, where do I have power? Not where does it feel like my power is being limited? Not on things in my control, not on things outside of my control. Using my intuitive discernment with everything that I consume and connecting with real people more and opening up to more real conversations and hearing more people's perspectives. I've always been critical of what I've consumed online and consumed from the media. And you should be too. So like if you're just now being like, oh, we're going to have to now be critical of what we're consuming because we can't trust it, like we've been new, right? So like always, again, coming back to that thinking critically, like be discerning and critical of everything you consume. Be discerning of how you consume. Going back to what we were saying about your relationship with social media and with the world and with yourself, right? And this is where it really does come back to the little things, right? Like how are you showing up to consume information? How are you spreading information? What frequency are you in? What frequency are you embodying? And what frequency are you putting out into the world? And what frequency are you consuming? You have to be so mindful of all three of those things. Because like I was saying before, it's about the frequency at the end of the day. And especially right now, and this is another thing that I kept hearing is like, where am I going to get my news now? I got all my news from TikTok. And it's like, that's the problem. It's because we're all getting news from social media. And I'm not saying that there aren't good sources of news and information that you can find on social media. You can get genuine education. Again, like we were talking about in the beginning, there are good pockets, right? I provide good value in education, and I know other people who I really trust. But we have to, again, be discerning. So if you're going to get your news through social media, don't get it by just scrolling your feed and clicking through stories and just reading other people's random commentary on opinions on events that you haven't even heard about prior to that. You know what I mean? We can't be jumping right to that. And we can't be using that to justify, right? Like, oh, but like, no, there's really actually good education and value. And like, well, I need to go on because I want to stay informed. It's important to stay informed. Again, yes, it is. But don't just let yourself continue to consume low frequency content in the name of staying informed, right? And in the same vein, don't vent and complain and energize fear and low frequency in the name of informing others, right? Because a lot of people are just using social media to vent now, which is fine, but like we have to all be clear. I mean, it's fine for you if it feels good to you. I personally feel like, I don't know, that's not exactly the place for it. Like I would rather vent in a different setting. That's not the vibe I want to share on my social media, but we all have our own boundaries with it. But we can't be having some people be like, social media is a great news educational platform, and other people are just out here venting on it. And then there's no discernment of what is what, who is venting and who is informing people and who's being informed and who is just on the other end of someone else's fear and panic. You know what I mean? If you are sharing on social media because you want to help inform others and you think that there are important things that you want to share, just be intentional about it. Do it from a grounded, regulated place, right? So if something like pisses you off or makes you emotional, don't just run to social media to share about it. Take a moment to filter it through yourself first and get into a grounded place. Process emotions if you need to process them. You know, if you need to vent or you're feeling highly emotional about something, journal on it. Or call someone, connect or communicate with a loved one before going straight to your stories or to your feed to either see other people talk about it or to talk about it, right? That's not going to help you or anyone else feel better. It's going to make you and everyone else feel worse, probably, right? So again, this is where it all comes back to taking care of yourself and your nervous system. Ground yourself first. And then if you do feel called to share something, share it from that place, and preferably with some kind of intentional message or empowered call to action, right? This is where I'm like coming back to getting out of that victim mentality. And we are moving past this powerlessness and this victim consciousness. And I think this is what this movement is, what's happening, right? That we're all a part of, is everyone is coming back into their own personal power. And that's what I'm here to support and help support people in doing, and coming back into your personal power, right? That's why I'm making this podcast episode. It's why I started my podcast in general. It's why I have my business, right? That's what it's all about. It's coming back into empowerment. And so, yes, it's important to raise awareness on issues, but what is the point if there's not some kind of intention around it, right? Or call to action. Even if it's not, I'm saying that you have to like call people into action, into collective or whatever, like into a big thing. It could be as simple as, like again, intention. Why are you sharing this? Even if it's just to say like, hey, I'm sharing this just to let you know you're not alone. I'm with you. It's going to be okay. Or if you're sharing about something, keep these people in your hearts. Why should people know? That's what intention is. And just make that clear. Have that come through. Sharing resources even. There are so many things. I don't care what your intention is. I just want you to be clear on it. All right? So if you are going to share, just be intentional about it. Be conscious again of the frequency you're embodying and the frequency you're putting out. And on the other side of it, if you want to stay informed and you're like, but it's just easy to get my news from social media, I understand. I would still encourage you to get your news from other sources as well, or from multiple sources. There are unbiased news sources out there that specifically that's their thing, is like, we report unbiased news because that's what people really want or say they want. Right? Like, do you want to be informed or do you want to be entertained or do you want to vent? It's just, again, I can't say it enough. Be clear on your intention before you act. And always, this is just one context we're talking about this in, but this applies everywhere. That it's everything. But again, ground yourself before consuming. Ground yourself before going on social media. Be intentional. I have screens downloaded on my phone, and it gives me a prompt that I could put in. Before I open social media, it says, say your intention out loud. So I have to say, why am I opening this app right now? Is it because I'm going to post something? Is it because I want to see what people are saying about XYZ, right? So just ground into your intention and ground yourself before consuming, right? Don't just like open yourself up to an energy attack of chaos. So many clients, every time I think I've gotten a call with a client this past week, they're like, oh, I'm just feeling so scattered right now. I'm like, yeah, I wonder why, right? Let's just take a few minutes to ground, to release the energy that you've picked up that's not yours, right? Like, cleanse your own energy field. And then intentionally seek out creators or news sources that you trust and that will deliver information in a straightforward and as unbiased way as possible. I know it's almost impossible for everyone to just completely avoid bias, right? But again, just like, be like, okay, I want to know what's going on with this. And I know that like these 3 people that I've been following for a long time and I really trust, and I know their views, or I know that they keep their bias out of it for the most part, or they report it and then they give their opinion after, like, and they report from a regulated place, from not a low frequency. So I know that it's not going to pull me down or pull me into a panic to get news from them, right? That's really important. And then just go seek out it from them specifically. And then if you do want to see other people's opinions, again, just be conscious about how you're consuming. Prepare yourself, right? and set your intention for what am I consuming now? Put that filter on. All right, now I'm consuming opinions, not news, not fact, opinions. And seek out information from as many different sources like that you trust as you can. And preferably from people with differing biases, right? Like complete the whole picture. And then talk about it with other people, all right? Because this is the thing too. This is why it feels so stressful to consume all the time, because we're not meant to just take in, right? This is this thing of like this exchange, this reciprocity always, right? So in a conversation, you are consuming and then you're expressing. You're receiving and you're giving. You're receiving your imbalance, right? That's why it's stressful to be taking in all the time, right? The overconsumption in terms of physical things and overconsumption of energy and the overstimulation. We're not meant to just take in. Receive, the same way we're not meant to do, give, right? We need that balance. So just having a real actual back and forth conversation with somebody is so much more powerful and so much different than the illusion of that by going on social media and just seeing what other people are saying or maybe leaving a comment or something. You know what I mean? It's just different. So then go have conversations with people about it, actual conversations, if you want other people's opinions. Preferably people who also got their information from other sources, right? Open discussions, right? Compare notes and be open to new perspectives. And preferably have conversations with people who actually have different opinions and biases than you as well. This is a big thing that I talked about back at the election, but we can't be cutting out people who think differently than us. That's a great way to shrink your perspective, right? And protect your peace. But we need to practice spreading love and being open and understanding and having empathy for each other. So again, feel your feelings and honor that, and then open conversations. Talk with people, right? Have empathy for each other and everyone around you, and then talk about solutions. Don't just talk about the problems, then talk about solutions and then act on those solutions, right? Because really it's like, if we're not doing that, what is the point? Even the point of just spreading awareness, it's because we want it to lead to a solution of some kind, to a change of some kind. So again, just be clear on what is the change that is happening. And if you couldn't tell already from what I've talked about in this episode, I think that's really what it comes back to at its core, is this is a collective awakening. That's really what it comes back to at the core. I think a big gift of this is what's happening is we're starting to filter out things that are out of integrity. And this is what's happening, is it's the awakening of truth. Like, we're coming back to truth. We are raising the frequency of the collective consciousness, but we need more and more people to be coming into truth and love, right? And this is why I say, by you individually just coming back to truth and love as much as you can, you are making a difference. When enough of us individually raise our frequency to a certain level, then anything else that it is not that frequency, like, it will fall out. It can't exist. If we can raise the collective consciousness to a certain level, like a certain vibration, then everything that's below that, it can't exist on the timeline anymore. Like, it can't, it will crumble. You know what I mean? It's like how we talk about manifestation. When you start to work on yourself and setting boundaries and healing yourself and loving yourself more, and then people fall out of your life. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. And I think this is my perspective, but this is the era of, like, I really feel like people talking about revolution and what's this and that, and like people, like, we have to riot and that. Like, I don't know. I think love is the answer. Maybe call me naive for saying that. I felt this way for a long time, and I think love is the answer. And love is more powerful than anything. Love is more powerful than hate. I have energy moving. Love is more powerful than hate. And if enough of us can align to the frequency of unconditional love, then anything that's not aligned with that will fall out. It can't exist anymore. It can't. And again, we don't have to worry about the how, right? That's like the universe takes care of that part. It's just how it works. And that's the thing with the collective frequency and the collective consciousness, is it starts with you, with every single one of us, right? And that's the thing, going back to the disempowerment, is like, the mindset of there's this source outside of me, right? This power that's happening to me, right? It's not happening to us. Like, we're all like, what is the majority frequency in the world right now that people are resonating at? right? People are resonating at this frequency of disempowerment. So therefore, it's manifesting collectively as an imbalance of power. People are resonating at this frequency of fear. I'm not saying like it's your fault, it's anyone's fault, right? It's like a fine line that people don't always understand with manifestation, but it's just like we have to rise above. If we want it to rise as a collective, we have to rise. What frequency do we want to be resonating at collectively? What kind of consciousness? Empowered consciousness or victim consciousness? Love or shame? You know? So if you feel like it's not making a difference, to literally just focus on staying in the frequency of love, loving yourself more, and keeping your nervous system regulated so you're not always in survival mode, so you can actually show up and give that love to others, show up and serve others. You can't show up for others when you're in survival mode because you can barely show up for yourself. Again, when you think about the collective frequency and the collective consciousness, if we're all in survival mode, that's like you're inherently going to be more selfish, right? That's what survival mode is. And it's not selfish in like a mean way. It's just how it is. And so that is manifesting on a grand scale in a very isolationist way, in a very self-centered way. That's the energy. That's the consciousness. Like that's what's coming through in policy because that's the energy on a smaller scale right now too. That's the consciousness on a smaller scale. So again, we want this world where we're all showing up for others and having empathy for others. There are so many people, they just don't have the capacity to do that, right? It's not selfish, it's survival. People don't have the capacity to care about other people's well-being when they are so scared for their own survival, no matter what that means. You know, if people are afraid that they can't provide for their family or they're not going to have enough money just to live, then they're not going to have the capacity to prioritize someone else's well-being. They're going to do whatever they feel like they need to do for their own safety first and foremost. It's just how we're built. It's how we're biologically designed, right? And we're not thinking, you can't think clearly. You can't even think logically. We're only thinking emotionally. We're thinking from survival mode. So we're creating from survival mode, right? So you have to prioritize that foundation so we can rise out of that. And that's what we want to spread, this higher frequency. So to bring it back to the frequency of truth, which is how I got on this rant, the number of times that I've had to stop this to like look back and be like, wait, what was I even talking about? Like, why did I bring this up? Like, what was the point I was initially making? I really think this is all a part of the process. What's happening here is like, we're raising the vibration. And again, things that are not in integrity, they're going to fall out because we're aligning to the frequency of truth. So what the coolest thing is how it prompted this trend, how like the impending death of TikTok prompted this trend of all these influencers revealing all the shit that was fake about their content. And all these people, these big content creators revealing like, hey, actually, like that was all fake. I lied to you about this and this and this and this and this. And like, it's just incredible for so many reasons because a lot of people are probably going to lose trust in those people, right? This is why, like, oh, I freaking love what I do. And I'm just like, man, it's so not a coincidence that I found this when I did, you know, because I'm the message that I'm here to spread. And it's like my why, energy moving again, my why is more powerful than ever right now. Because I'm literally like, this is the movement. This is why I'm here doing what I'm doing. Like, I am not just helping people start businesses. Oh my God, getting emotional. I'm not just helping people start businesses. I'm helping people love themselves. I'm helping people create and express authentically. I'm helping people find fulfillment. I'm helping people connect to their intuition. I'm helping people raise their vibration because that is the movement. That is what is contributing to this larger change. Every woman that I work with, they have a big vision. They are heart-led, soul-led. Like these are the women that I'm supporting because these are the women whose messages and gifts need to be shared more with the world, who need to be expressing themselves fully. These are the women that need to be platformed, that need the knowledge and tools and confidence and courage to grow and scale and spread their message because this is what we need more of in the world. This is why I'm here, spreading this message to help other women spread this message and their own message that is aligned with this frequency of truth and love, to share their unique gifts and bring them into this movement of raising the collective consciousness. Like, this is it. Like, this is literally why we're here. This is our mission right now. It's not just about starting a business or making money. It's not about all those surface level reasons. It's about getting the money into the hands of heart-led people. It's about creating a world where we create more than we consume, where we express in alignment with our truth, where we live in alignment, where we love each other and love ourselves. And every single individual woman that I can help to feel safer to express herself and to create what's on her heart and to trust her intuition and step into her power a little bit more and share her message a little bit more loudly and increase her wealth and her capacity, that is one step closer to making this vision of our world and the society that we live in a reality. These unethical entrepreneurs and affiliate marketers and whoever else are not going to continue to be successful. I made a video about this the other day, actually, too, before even all this really went down, talking about just the shift that I felt in the energy that I talked about on here. I've talked about on Instagram, like collectively, of just like a shift in our relationship with social media and the digital realm, and how it's actually a really good thing for online businesses and for heart-led entrepreneurs, because there's so many people like crowding up the space and manipulating and taking people's attention and money with unethical practices and shitty products, whether that's scammy coaches, whether that's people selling shitty products on TikTok Shop, whatever it is, like that's crowding up the space, and they're not going to be able to survive in this new age. They're going to fall out, right? They're not in integrity. And that's making more space for the people who are integrity to get louder and take up more space and be more seen and reach more people and change more lives. And I think it also highlights too, the fact that all these influencers were exposing stuff, how fake, right, that sense of connection on social media is. Because it's like how many people like loved these creators and like they felt so good when they saw their content and they thought that they were being inspired by them, but it was all fake, right? We need more just realness, authenticity, realness, truth. It's all the same thing. So I think that was just such a like people, and like I've seen people being like, are we just going to forget that all these people like admitted that they were completely making all this shit up? And that's the thing is like, people chase these like certain sales tactics and marketing, and they think they need to look perfect and they need to do this and they need to lie and make themselves sound better and look better. And I've been saying over and over from the beginning, right? Your authenticity is your superpower, right? Build real, genuine relationships. That's the blood of your business, right? You are the magic. You and your uniqueness, your truth. That is your selling point. That is your magnetism. That's all you need. Hone in on that. And share that as openly as you can. And that's just showing like you could chase these other methods. You could have the supposed success. It could look like you're successful. You could have like short-lived fame. But if you are not in integrity, you will always fall. You'll never keep it. And this is what I said from the beginning too. Even back when I ran Embodied Success, which was like a program that I launched right before I was like, okay, actually what I'm doing is like I'm trying to help people start businesses, and I'm dancing around saying that because I was scared. But I called it Embodied Success. And my whole point was like, even if you do achieve the quote unquote success, which is what, like the money, the followers, like what else is there if you're looking at it that way, but you weren't in alignment with truth, you're still going to feel like shit. Like that, those secrets have obviously been weighing on those people, right? Again, if you're always chasing something outside of you, you're going to feel like shit when you get it. Like you need it within. Like it is that simple, guys. It really is that simple. It's always the same shit. So yeah, I actually feel really kind of inspired and encouraged about this. I think it's just been a great wake up call. And if you maybe didn't like realize all this, or you weren't totally woken up to it, hopefully maybe something that I've said has like brought some clarity to the perspective that you've had on it, or helped to expand your perspective. Or if you disagree with me, if you have other thoughts, I'd love to know. Like, again, this is just one perspective. I'm never going to be one to be like, I am right and you are wrong and this is it. But these are just kind of the thoughts that have been going on in my head that I needed to get out. I feel like this was such a mess and very disorganized. So I hope that it like made sense. But to wrap it up, I guess really my points are, look at your relationship with social media. I think take this as a wake-up call to just examine your relationship with social media and with anything, and just be like, you know, how intentional am I being with this? And how in alignment is this really? Like, what was I really getting from this? And was I getting it in a healthy way? Again, like a toxic relationship. We get a feeling of like love, kind of, in a toxic relationship, right? But it's like, was that genuine? And was I getting it in a healthy way? No, just because like in toxic relationships, like I was in a toxic relationship and I would live for those, like I would go through all this shit and the gaslighting and the manipulation and like being made to feel like shit and whatever else for that like one moment where I would feel like I want it back and like I got the love. You know what I mean? But that wasn't real and it wasn't sustainable and it wasn't healthy. So it's like, just look at your relationship with social media and ask yourself, like what hole was TikTok filling? What hole is it filling? And how can I actually access those things maybe in a healthier or more sustainable way? And to touch on the business thing too, because I know I didn't talk about the business thing as much. So for people who are like, I built my whole business on TikTok and now it's just gone. What I want to say on that, it's actually not that complicated, is like people who genuinely were selling heart-led products or services and their majority of their following was on TikTok. Number one, this is just a lesson, a hard lesson, a lesson you had to learn the hard way to like diversify your buckets, right? And not just put all your eggs into one basket. I feel like that's very basic advice that like, unfortunately, we don't always follow, even though we hear it all the time. I think it's a very basic lesson of business, right? Is like, have multiple streams of income and revenue. That's always been a thing. And I get it. Like, again, like if Instagram died tomorrow, I would be really upset because I've built most of my stuff up on Instagram. And at the same time, I would be happy that I have a podcast, that I have an email list, albeit I don't email the list very often, but I at least have collected a decent amount of emails, or all the emails of people who are like really genuinely engaged with my content, like consistently, and are very loyal to me. You know what I mean? And like I was on TikTok too, so it's like I had multiple even though we have a primary platform, I've had multiple ways, and I know that like the people that are listening to my podcast are people that are really interested in what I have to say, right? Probably most of my followers on Instagram aren't seeing my stuff super often. You know what I mean? So just because you had a big following doesn't necessarily mean that you had a loyal following. And really all you need, like a core business foundation, it's like that 1,000 true fans theory, right? Like you don't need that many people in your following. It's like a very, again, like fake vision of success. Oh, I had a big following and that's why I'm successful. No, you just need a loyal, engaged following. You need a warm community. You need like people that respect you and trust you and love you, right? That's a problem with a lot of people who built big followings on TikTok and they were making money just because they had a big following, not because a lot of people genuinely like loved them, right? People that are nervous they're going to lose their following is because people aren't like into them enough to follow them somewhere else. But that's why I'm always talking about in business, right? Your relationships. And again, I know it sucks because like you could make money off of that. It still sucks to lose a way that you were making money. So I'm not like trying to put that down at all, but I'm just saying like the lesson is, right? Like relationships are at the core. That's what I always say. So if you've built really strong relationships, those are the foundation of your business, and that allows your business to exist anywhere. On TikTok, on Instagram, on an email list, on a podcast, in person, in the middle of nowhere. If people trust you and people feel that you provide value to them, then they will seek it out. They will seek you out and they'll follow you wherever you go, wherever you are. They'll find you, So you really want to make an impact on people. That's why I always say impact and then income, right? Focus on making an impact. Focus on forming those genuine relationships with people. Genuine. You will be so much more successful. You could be a millionaire with 1,000 followers if every single one of those 1,000 followers was a diehard for you versus somebody with 50K or even 1 million followers. But they're all just like kind of They're like, oh yeah, that person's content was kind of good. So like I followed them. Oh yeah, it's nice when they pop up on my page, right? It's not the same thing. It doesn't mean the same thing for your business at all. So again, I think it's just really a shift. And this is like just, it's like symbolic of the shift that's happening energetically of like what we're prioritizing. So yeah, for business, I would say I'm really sorry if that was your primary platform, if you are losing money, following, whatever it was, I'm really sorry. And feel your feels, be upset about it, and then just like take the lesson, and make whatever shifts you need to make in your business moving forward. And I think that's the biggest one, right? Because the affiliate marketers, again, yes, I feel bad that you're losing that way to make money that you were making, but also some of the shit I saw on TikTok, oh my God, some of the lives I would come across and a lot of the TikTok shop ads, just like it was empty. All right. Yeah, you were making money, but it was empty. It was like, that's not a society I want to live in. that's honestly not even like get your bag. Like I'm not like trying to shame anyone for the way that they're making money. But there's also part of me that's like, how could you have been feeling truly fulfilled by that? You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure there is a desire that's on your heart, like a way that you would love to make money and something you would love to create that this is making space for you to pursue that. But I just want to put that out there because I'm just trying to hit on all perspectives here. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing with business is just quality, trust, relationship, client experience, right? Word of mouth, referrals. Like that's the realness, relationships. I feel like at the core of everything I'm saying is like we need to just prioritize relationships and connection, true relationships, connection, integrity, truth, love. That's what it all comes back to in different ways. What can you do? Be more intentional, be a conscious consumer, right? Like don't interact with ads. Or at least don't be so susceptible to ads, right? It's not even that ads are bad, but it's like, don't, like everyone's like, oh, the propaganda, but like how much propaganda and how much marketing and ads are we falling for? You know, just like be intentional, be a conscious consumer and like with what you're purchasing, with when you're purchasing, with why you're purchasing, with who you're purchasing from. Again, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. Okay, don't kill yourself over this. Just start to bring a little more thoughtfulness into it. Okay? Stop yourself. The next time you go to impulse buy something off of Amazon and be like, do I really need this? Do I really need this? A lot of the time, the answer is going to be no. Let me tell you an embarrassing example of this. The other day, well, this was like a couple weeks ago, I literally opened Amazon impulsively to look up how much it would be to buy replacement cups for my Ninja blender, my individual Ninja blender cups, because mine were really kind of dirty and I didn't feel like deep cleaning them. And I literally opened it and looked up how much it would be to just get new cups. And then I sat myself and I was like, oh my God, John Marie, take 5 minutes, 10 minutes max, put in a little bit of effort, right? Like we've been talking about, and clean the damn cups. And I did. And it took like 5 minutes. And they looked very nice afterwards. And I did not need to go spend, the cups were actually very expensive, which is a part of what helped me stop. They were like $60. I was like, okay, $60 is not worth. And this is a thing of like the time, money, right? It's like, we have to just, again, this is why I say energetic even exchange, right? If it would have taken me like 3 hours to clean the cups and replacement cups were $5, maybe I would have bought them, you know? But you have to just take that moment to be thoughtful about it and ask and then make a conscious choice. Is the exchange even here? You know, is this an impulse or will I feel good after? You know, like genuinely, is this aligned? Is this an aligned way for me to spend my money? And just check it, right? You can ask, do I need this? Right? If it's like a clothing item that you see an ad for or something, do I need this? I don't think we talk about enough, openly enough, how much people are impulse buying material items. I'm not saying it's bad to buy material items, but I'm saying, again, hope it's clear by now, just be intentional about it and just take a second to ask yourself, you know, be intentional. Again, if like, I feel like this is the thing, like this is the reason why everyone's upset is because like, we don't feel like we have enough resources. Where are you spending your resources? Your resources are your time, your energy, your money. And where are you spending those? What are you putting them towards? Because you get back what you put in. You give value, you receive value. So this is what we need to bring it back to. Just be conscious. And if it is something you need or want, right? Do I have to get it from here? Or where am I getting it from? Again, it's not just Amazon. It's just the easiest example for me to think of. But it's like anything. Like, where am I buying this from? Who am I supporting? Like, how can I be a little more supportive of people with values that I align with and businesses and services and products that I align with? How can it's like ripple effect, right? If I give my energy and time and money towards other people that are giving their energy and time and money towards the values that I align with, then we're going to keep increasing that. That's what we're circulating. So just be more intentional with how you're using your voice, with what actions you're taking, with what you're putting your energy and your focus towards, with where you're spending your money, with what you're spending your money on. Little ways, little ways. Little things are the big things. Your relationship with everything, with other people, with yourself, with the internet, and create more, consume less, and take care of yourself, okay? Basic self-care. Go outside, drink water, move your body, create every day, express yourself, speak your truth, put yourself out there, go outside of your comfort zone, exercise self-discipline, be a conscious human, be a conscious consumer, be a conscious creator, spread love, spread truth. That's really all you have to do. It is simple, right? It gets to be easy. It gets to be easy. I hope that you were able to follow this. Hopefully when I listen back, it'll feel a little more cohesive. I always feel like by the end of these episodes, I'm like, did I make any sense? But then I listen back and it normally feels a lot more cohesive than it felt while I was talking. So anyway, that's just what I have for you today. Yeah, I think we can bring it back to basics and just remember like the values. I feel like I probably started like 17 trains of thoughts that I never finished, but I'm going to just trust that whatever was meant to come through came through. It's so weird. I'm recording this Sunday and it's not coming out till Thursday, but so I'm like, what is even going to be going on Thursday? Is there anything that I want to be like telling you about, updating you on business wise? You know what? I'll tell you, I think I'm really strongly considering changing the name of my mastermind, and I'm fighting with it because I've already spent like how many months building up brand awareness with the current name, CEO Frequency. And I know it would be technically like a worse business move to change the name and make it something people aren't familiar with. But I don't know, it's not feeling super aligned. And I feel like I want it to align more with what I've kind of talked about here of just like the values and like women who are sharing their gifts and expanding and a part of this movement of raising the collective consciousness through their authentic expression and creation, whatever that looks like for them, it's still essentially like I'm helping women expand in entrepreneurship, but it's like, it's just bigger than that. And like the word CEO feels limiting to me for some reason. And at first I was like, I want this because I want to redefine, like what it means to be a CEO. But I don't know, it's just not feeling off. And I kind of want to keep the word frequency though. And so I'm like considering maybe just like high frequency, because I feel like that feels really aligned with what I'm talking about here, right? Like we're about like raising your frequency and like raising the frequency of the world. Like that's our mission essentially. And like I was playing with like frequency, like putting an extra E to be like queen or like queen frequency, but like frequency just sounds weird. Like, I don't know, queen frequency. I'm kind of feeling high frequency. And then I can kind of keep the frequency vibe and just change it from CEO to high. I don't know. It just feels, for some reason, it feels like CEO feels like it's pulling it down. So I feel like I might be changing it. And it's like, this is very real because the doors are opening again for the mastermind this week. So it's like, I kind of need to know what the name is. I'm sure it'll be figured out by now because this is Sunday I'm recording this and this is coming out on Thursday. But either way, if you're into this vibe and you want to be a part of the movement and you're like, fuck yes, like I want to create and express and make my mark on the world and be a part of this week only is going to be really epic pre-sale deal. So basically, if you buy on pre-sale, you get the best possible value, like insane discount, extra value included, and a bunch of other stuff. So if you're like, oh my God, I'm activated as fuck, please let me in, I want to know more. I will have an application in my Instagram bio linked, and I'll also link the application in the show notes of this episode. If you are curious, if you have any questions, send me a message on Instagram or, reach out to me on email, wherever. Again, you can access me multiple ways. If you have questions about what it entails, if you'd be a good fit, if you're feeling a pull and you're like not sure why and you're like, I don't even know, schedule a call with me and we can talk through it. I'd love to help you get some clarity. But yeah, that's what's going on, guys. I feel like this is the vibe that the podcast is going to. I feel like I really just want to like talk more about, I just want to like, discuss. I feel like I want more open conversations. And this is why I'm going to start having people on the podcast. I'm just trying to figure out, I'm sorting out the details. You guys know I've been in this kind of transition phase with the podcast, this like messy middle. And I feel like I'm definitely coming into clarity with it. Yeah, I'm just figuring out exactly like how I want to execute my vision. But I really feel like the direction I'm going is I want to start having people on and just having more open conversations, like sharing stories, like more just genuine connection, like I still love to educate you guys and, share tips and education and stuff like that. But it feels like I just want to bring more balance into it. Like, I don't want the podcast to just be an educational podcast. I want it to be, I don't want it to be so masculine in structure, I guess. You know what I mean? Of like, okay, and this is what I'm teaching you today, and this is the topic. I like the openness, the flowiness. I like just, being open-ended, and I want it, that feels expansive to me. And so I'm really excited just to explore this and with the direction the podcast is going. It's like, I feel like I've arrived there internally, and now there's just a few more steps for me to get this in, like, what I am feeling internally in alignment for the podcast, to get that expressed externally and have it all matched up. So really excited about that. I would love to know your thoughts on all of this and what you thought of this episode. So please feel free to share in DMs. Again, I'm always open to a conversation. Again, this is not necessarily like I'm not the most informed on like a lot of these topics that I was just talking about. So I'm just kind of sharing, my perspective and my knowledge and my opinions on just kind of what's going on in the world. And I would love to know your thoughts about it, because again, open conversations are how we learn and expand and how we connect. So love you guys so much. Thank you so much for listening. Do one kind thing for yourself today. Set one boundary. Speak your truth a little bit louder. Take 5 minutes for yourself. Go to sleep a little bit earlier. Whatever it is, do one kind thing for yourself, and then continue to do that every day. And then you can start doing 2 kind things for yourself, and 3, and then 4. And then you could do a kind thing for someone else. And we're just going to slowly build it up from there. All right. Okay. Love you. Thank you for listening to me yap for however long this episode was. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day or night wherever you are. Love you so much. Thank you for listening. And I will talk to you next week. Bye. Mwah.